Off the ball.
With Sky. Watch every live Premier League game this season on Sky Sports, BT Sport and Premier Sports.
I'm prepared to do anything I can to play for my country again.
Do it then. What about your start to the game?
It wasn't bad, was it?
Why should an honest answer be a mistake?
How can a modern day manager not have a mobile phone?
Why should he?
Alright, you're welcome along to Thursday's football show. Delighted to have John Giles in studio with us this week. How are you keeping, John?
I'm okay, Nathan.
You're looking well? Keeping well?
Keeping out of trouble.
That's the main thing. That's
as
the
much
main
as
thing.
possible.
We are on the cusp of another important international window. There's a lot of Premier League to look back on as well. I know you're heading to the Aviva Tuesday night to watch the Armenia game.
Yes, I've been invited to go, and it's Dr. Alan Byrne. I think it's his last match. So, and he's a very good friend of mine. I spoke about him last week. I've known Alan since he was a kid. He's done a great job with the Irish team and that. So, I think there might be a few drinks afterwards, Nathan.
Where's the John Giles haunt these days? You're not in town enough to have a haunt anymore.
No. I'm. You mean home?
Yeah.
Home. I'm in Dublin for a week and here next week, and I'll be looking forward to Tuesday night to see Alan's farewell.
But if you see John Tuesday night, Bacardi and Coke is.
Yeah, not diet.
No, the real stuff.
Oh, I can't stand diet, Nathan. It's like poison. I mean, the way we're talking, you think I was a near alcoholic situation. It's only down in, and I can put a little drop in.
Okay.
Just a little drop, and I can drown it then, you know.
Right.
But it's usually has a good effect. Yeah.
Might be a sing-song at the end of the night.
Could be.
Could well be.
Yeah.
Sounds like it might be a good one.
Yeah. Well, we look forward to it. It should be good. A big fella, big send-off for Alan. Anyway.
Yeah, he deserves it. He's been there a hell of a long time. You don't go to many matches anymore. Do you miss not going to matches and not been around the game as much?
Well, I used to go to the matches when I was on RTE doing the matches. You had to be there for that, Nathan. But I was never, like in England, I get a lot of offers to go see, say, West Brom playing and like when you're a player, you see, you drive up to the ground, you come out, you drive down. There's no hanging around and getting there early. Like if I go to West Brom now or any match, like you've got to be there at least an hour beforehand. You've got to park the car. There's a lot of that, and I mean there's a lot of matches on telly, as you know. So I haven't been to a live match for ages, and obviously the Irish match I watch on the telly as well. But we used to, as you know, in a few years ago. You'd be at the match because you were doing it live from up on the stand and that, you know. Sometimes the away matches you were obviously in the studio.
And would you have found a big difference when you were doing your analysis of, you know, being there at Lansdowne Road compared to, as you say, an away game, or if it was a Champions League game where you're back in studio? Would you have found it a lot easier to do analysis when you're at the game and you're seeing the full picture?
No, you'd probably easier in the studio, Nathan, because you could be watching the match, but you could ask the one of the lads who are doing it for you, can you go back on that a little bit? When you're doing it live, you're out of it in many ways. You don't have the same technology at, say, Lansdowne Road as you would in the studio.
Are you, I was going to say, a bit fairer almost when you're in the stadium because you're kind of more aware of the atmosphere and the hype and the emotion of it, whereas I guess when you're in studio you're a bit more removed, as you say, you're saying stop, go back. You're looking at it probably more in an analytical sense, whereas in studio you get a better sense of the occasion.
Well, the problem you see with doing it at the ground is you're in a little
box,
and you don't have the same atmosphere as the fans.
Right, so it's sort of soundproofed and you're not fully getting it.
I think when we were doing it, I preferred doing it in the studio because we had more technology around us if we needed to look at something. Do you know what I mean? Watch the goal or go over the goal or that. It was easier to do, I think, in the studio.
So we've got two big games coming up, Scotland and Armenia. They're important for different reasons in terms of seedings and things like that. They're also still important for Stephen Kenny because it was a mixed bag in June. started off horrifically with the defeat in Armenia, followed up by a defeat at home to Ukraine, but they managed to turn it around, build a bit of momentum, and it's been sort of like that for Stephen Kenny over the last 3 years.
Yeah.
They get a couple of results, you feel that's it, they're going to kick on, and there's a big setback. Are you seeing in general signs of progress? Do you feel like they're ready, that this is almost a finished article of his team now?
I would imagine so. I mean, if you say he's been doing it for 3 years, I don't know, he's had quite a lot of matches. He's had a break from it now. I mean, Stephen, I believe now would know all these players inside out. You know, he's give them all a go, and it takes time, as we spoke to early on. You know, you in your head, you have Joe Bloggs can do that, and then you find out he can't do it. So that's 3 years. I'd say Stephen would really, really know his best team now, definitely, and then you go from there. You know,
what would you put more emphasis on in terms of that selection? So the players who played well against Scotland last time out and over in Ukraine, some of those aren't playing a huge amount at club level. There's other players, the likes of, say, Chidozie Ogbene, who dropped out of the side for those couple of games, but has started the season domestically very, very well. Like, that is the job of the managers, to get that balance. What would you put more on in terms of selecting your 11?
I think you'd know before they played the season, Nathan. Anybody. Because, as you say, somebody could be playing, Joe Bloggs could be playing, he did particularly well. And I found it when I was management like that, okay, he's done that for his team, but the guy that I want has done it for us all the time. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, lads can be on form, but that's for the club team. But you have to go, what's he done for me when he's played for me? Do you know what I mean? And mostly, I know what he can do. I know what they all can do now. Right, I know there's some lads coming back into the squad and that, and the squads are very, very big. But Stephen, in my opinion, as manager, would ignore in many ways club form. You know, I found that when I was manager, I wouldn't have had as many players in it. But how did he play for me? What did he do for me? You know. Yeah.
Different system.
It's a different.
To what they're playing
it's a
with
different
their
thing
club.
altogether. You only have the international players for a certain period of time. It's not like having a club. The clubs have the players all the time, but they're your players. You know, because what you'll find is at club level, the manager that's picking that team, he likes this particular player. That's the way he wants to play. But it's different for you, right? And the problem is, as international manager, you're not with the players all the time.
Yeah, he hasn't.
Club manager, you're there all the time. You're playing matches week in and week out. But you have to go on what the player did for me at international level. You know, and that's the way. And I think Stephen would know these players inside out now, definitely.
So no excuses left at this stage. One player who I think is nailed on to start is Nathan Collins. He had a very good June window and obviously capped it with that sensational goal against Ukraine in the last game. He's had quite the week, obviously.
Yeah.
Sent off for the karate kick on Jack Grealish on Saturday. You've obviously seen a bit of him in the Premier League this season, and there's a lot of expectation on his shoulders already. How good is he now? How good could he become?
I think he's really good. I think it'll take a bit of time for him to become a really top Premiership player and an international player. Was he 21? I think he's got everything. Now, what he needs now is experience. I mean, it showed on the foul he committed on Grealish last week. You know, he didn't go to hurt him, but it was a bad decision to make at that particular time. And especially in the position that he's playing at centre back, like it's probably one of the most responsible positions on the pitch, apart from the goalkeeper. You know, you have to learn your trade. Like you can't go here, you can't go there. It'll take time. You learn match by match, and he's very, very young yet, and he's very inexperienced at the moment. But I think he's got what it takes to become a really top class player.
Right.
And he learns as he goes along. You know what? Like he played in Ukraine, wasn't he?
In Ukraine, he scored the goal.
He was outstanding. He was outstanding in the match. So he'll have a hard job at the weekend, I think, with Scotland. Scotland are quite good.
Well, they looked very good last night, yeah.
Good. But he learned as he goes.
What is it that you're seeing about him at 21 that suggests he'll go to the very top?
Like last week, he was a bit anxious to get to the ball. That's how he committed the foul, because he didn't go to hurt the player, but it was a bad decision to make, and he learned match by match by match by match. Now I can't go there. I can go into that. I can make a tackle there. I can get on the cover. There's a million and one things to learn from that position. But in my opinion, he has the basic skills and commitment, and he's a big lad. I think he's going to be good in the air. From what I've seen of him, I think he's going to be a really, really top class player. But he will make a few mistakes. It's a very, very difficult position. They usually learn the trade. I remember John Terry playing with Chelsea when he was 28, 29. He knew when to go there. You knew when to go there. Midfield is similar. All the positions are like they have to have position sense, but they're not as vital. In midfield, you could go into the wrong position and you give the ball away.
Yeah,
and you got to defend in his position.
You miss a tackle, it doesn't necessarily result in a goal.
There's a good chance of goal, and you'll have to live with that and learn from it. And he seems a really good lad. So as he goes along, he'll get better and better.
I'm sure there's plenty of centre halves who don't lose that rashness, and maybe they're the ones who don't make it to the very top. But
it's true. It's true. You're right, absolutely right. And you see them, and they can have a good game on the day when you have to go for everything, and they never learn. Some days you don't have to go; you have to sit back. You know what I mean? We've seen some terrific players. I think John Terry, in fairly recent times, was brilliant at that. And as he got older, he got better and better, and he knew when to dive in, when to do all the various things. But I think this lad Nathan has the basics that he has is good, and I'm sure we'll learn from it.
Yeah, it's a hard thing in a game like that. You're playing Manchester City. You probably feel you need to leave a bit on them.
Oh yeah, especially when there's a long ball coming across. And I saw him in other matches as well, apart from Manchester City, and he was a little bit jumpy in that way. He'll settle down as the matches go on. You learn and learn and learn. These are the lads who are really going to be good. They used to have a saying years ago, you play one match and you learn a lot. You play 100 matches and you learn nothing. Do you know what I mean, Nathan? Some lads, I've seen lads like that. They're as good at 20 as they are at 30. But I think Nathan Collins has what it takes to get better and better.
And I suppose when he went in on him, he left one on him at least. He was going to get sent off.
It was up in his chest. I mean, I think he obviously thought he could get the ball, but that's learning as well, having experience. Well, no, I won't do that again, because like the tackle was at the vital time of the game. Like Wolves were coming back into the game at that particular. But at any stage, you can't do that. You have to be able to read. See, if he's reading it really well, Nathan, he lets Grealish have it on his chest,
and then
the ball has to go somewhere, right? And then obviously, he learned one of his chests has to come down to his feet. Now's the time he comes in. He can still bury Grealish at that time without committing a foul and getting sent off.
Yeah,
but that's all learning.
Grealish has been in the news a lot this week, and again today he was doing media yesterday around the England games. He was obviously asked about Graham Souness's criticism about him, that felt he wasn't doing enough with the ball and wasn't advancing the ball enough with Manchester City, and he sort of bit back at Souness, and Souness has had a bite back again today, saying that Grealish wasn't a quick learner. Where are you on Jack Grealish? He got the goal the last day.
Yeah.
The £100 million price tag is hanging over him. Grealish has said he's basically doing what Pep Guardiola's asking him to do,
and Pep has said as well. Which I don't go along with that. I don't go along with Pep saying, "Well, he's doing what I want him to do," right? So I'll address that particular situation first. He's playing as a left winger, right? And when wingers get the ball, whether they be right side or left, the midfield players have to do their stuff, and all the players have to do their stuff to get the ball out to the players in that position. Now, what wingers are there for, when all that build-up goes out to them, they have to be beating the fullback, or trying to beat the fullback. Almost 90% of the time. That's where all the good play finishes. Out there, now, you've got to take them on. Now, what I see with Grealish all season since he got it, and I don't know the lad, but very frustrated watching him. 9 times out of 10, when it comes out to him, he's right-footed, as we know. He comes up to the full-back, takes it down, comes out, passes it back. And the ball sometimes finishes up his own goalkeeper. When the wingers, whether it be right side or left side, the other lad is very good. Foden, yeah. Foden is very, very good. When it comes out to him, he beats them well. That's what it has to be. All their good play is from the midfield, gets to that position. 9 times out of 10, whenever time it gets there, then the winger has to do his stuff, has to take the fella on. Get the ball over, you score a goal from it. You know, I go back, and I don't like going back too much. When I played at Leeds, we had Peter Lorimer on the right wing, Eddie Gray, Remember and myself in the middle of the field. Our job was to get it from back to front, maybe put somebody through down now and again, but a lot of times, boom, out to Eddie Gray. Right, the last thing we wanted was for Eddie to pull it out and give it back to us, and then we go back again. That's the last thing you want. You've got to take the full back on in that position. Grealish wasn't doing that at all. So I would agree with what Graham is saying. What's he doing? And then for Pep to say, that's what I want him to do, I don't believe that. You can't believe that when the ball goes out to a winger after good play. That next thing is you've got to take him on. Right? Because you're not going anywhere. And all the good play that you've done in midfield, and to get into that position, it takes good play to get the wingers in that position. Now they have to do their stuff. So if he pulls out, and Pep is saying, he's doing what I want him to do. I can't believe it. I think what Pep is saying at the moment, and doing at the moment, is to try and get his confidence back, not get on to him, right? But the second thing as well with Grealish, to be fair to him, when he played for Villa, he didn't play as a left winger. He played as a left-sided midfield player that could go away from that. He wasn't a winger that was taken to be a part. He was a midfield lad, and he could beat players from that position because it was much easier to do it, and that's what made him a good player. He was, when I watched him playing for Villa, we all did for a long time, he never played as a left winger. Never, as a winger. And all the time I've seen him play for City, he's played as a left winger. It's like buying a full back, right? Or having somebody playing a full back who's a centre half, or vice versa. That's not his position. So I do feel a bit sorry for that. But I'm amazed at Guardiola's response to it, and I'm not surprised at Graham Souness's criticism of him.
We spoke a few weeks ago about Pep Guardiola and the style of play that he's been so successful with, where there was a quote of him wanting 16, 17 passes for the perfect goal, and that you needed that to open up, and that would sort of feed into what Jack Grealish is saying, that you're sort of constantly recycling possession, you're moving the defence, and eventually an opening comes, and that's where City capitalise. I guess the obvious contradiction to that, and everything Foden has said, is actually Phil Foden. Yeah, because when Foden does get it in that same position, and they play in the exact same spot, it's one or the other generally. Foden goes at the defender.
But to go back to the 16 pass situation that Guardiola did say, I believe did say, that's nonsense as well. I mean, if you get the ball in the middle of the field with Haaland, the way he plays, and he's come off the defender and you put him through, that's what you do. That's one pass. And when you're a midfield player, Nathan, that's what you're looking for. Like when I was a kid playing at Manchester, Jimmy Murphy used to coach, and he said, John, when you get the ball, the first thing you look, can you put somebody through? That's what you look for. That's the most dangerous pass. If you can't, then you do something else. But what Pep is saying, we need 16 passes, I think this is what he's saying, to score a goal. You don't, right? Actually, 16 passes, it depends where you're coming and going from, right? Sometimes it's 16 passes because the ball goes out to Grealish, for example, and he'll put out of that situation, and it goes back 3 or 4 passes to the centre-backs. It drives me crackers watching it from that difficult position. That and the 16 passes goes back to the full. That's passes. Yeah. But what's wrong with Grealish beating the guy and making it one pass? Or if you're a midfield player in Haaland or anybody else, and you put him through, right? We've seen that with Haaland. It doesn't take 16 passes. It can, at times, but what perhaps seems to be saying is, this is a policy we have, that it's going to take 16 passes to put somebody. That can happen, but that's not what you're looking for. As a player, a midfield player, now you're looking for one pass. Can I do it? And then if it's not on, then you go somewhere else.
It's successful.
Well, it could be more successful, Nathan, because the match that they played in the European a couple of weeks ago
against Borussia Dortmund,
right? They were terrible in the first half. Terrible. Grealish was terrible. Gundogan was terrible. And it was no coincidence that at half time, Foden came on and Bernardo Silva.
Yeah.
And they totaled it. Bernardo Silva is the best progressive midfield player that they have, right? That particular, they had Gundogan on. Rodri is a square passer. They were terrible. De Bruyne is not playing in the midfield. He sees it, but he's not playing in the mid. So they're not controlling the midfield. They were terrible against them. So when he took Grealish off, and he put Bernardo Silva on,
and Foden on,
and Foden on, they were a different. Now they had a midfield. Now they had a balance, and they weren't good. But they were second half. They were really good. So I think whenever Foden is playing, or not playing, and Grealish is playing, and Gundogan is playing, and they're not going to be the same team at all, Nathan. They're not even, in my opinion, not even going to be a good team. Now, against Wolves last week, what they do great, City, when they're really, really on it, is when they don't have the ball, to get after them. They're really, really brilliant at that. And first half against Wolves, they were brilliant at it. They went 2 up. Then they slackened.
You had some doubts about that last season with City. Did you at times about maybe just the general attitude of them? You're not seeing anything this season. You think they're at it?
No, at times, when the first half against Wolves the other day, first half they were really good. You had Bernardo Silva in the middle of the field. You had Foden doing their stuff, and they were getting back and they were getting after the team. Really good. And then funny enough, they went off a bit when they made it 2. They went off a little bit, and Wolves came back into the game. So.
And was Grealish not a big part of that in the first half against Wolves?
Not particularly. He scored, which is good. But even in the first half, once Grealish gets the ball, in my opinion, or any winger, now can I take the full back on? Can I take them? That's all where your good play comes from. That's where the danger comes from. But if you have a picture in your head of Grealish playing, takes it up on his right foot, stops, comes out of it, passes it back. That's the picture I have. That's what he does 90% of the time. Right? Now you're back into your own half of the field. Now, from the position, now you've got to start again, which they're good at, to get into that position again. That's your end product. No matter who it is, whether it be Grealish, once it goes in, now he's one-on-one on the full-back, he takes him on, gets a cross in, that's how you create the goals. Once he comes back there, then they go back there, then they finish up the halfway line again. It's keeping possession, which is okay.
Yeah.
But that's not the emphasis should be take them on, get a cross in, come inside and score, or whatever you want to do from that position.
You mentioned Grealish at Villa, and everything at Villa went through Grealish,
yes.
Whether it was in the midfield 3 or a slightly more advanced role, he was always involved.
He was the man,
And the pressure on him isn't going to change at Manchester City because he's English and because of the price tag. Could he play a different role in that City team?
Yes.
Is he good enough?
Yes. Well, that's what he did at Villa.
But there's one thing doing it for Villa, there's another thing doing it for the best team in Europe. Like, could he play in the midfield 3 for City?
Yes. If you pay 100 million for a player from where the position he was playing in, Nathan, why would you put him on the left wing where you didn't see him even play for 100 million? Grealish is a midfield player, and he was a very good midfield player for Villa. If you let him go a bit, he used to play left side of midfield a bit, but he had the free run to go over here if he wanted to, and he could take people on the middle of the field. It's a wholly different game when you're taking people on as a winger. Like in the middle of the field, it's much easier to do it. But when you're like the real wingers, the fellas that cost, like Foden, when he gets the ball, is a danger. He's either going to come inside on his left if he's on the right side, or he's going to beat people and get the cross in and all the various things that wingers do. But Grealish never did that at Villa. He was good at Villa, doing what he did. He had freedom to go somewhere. He was a midfield player, So it's like getting any midfield player and putting him out on the left wing and saying, no, you've got to take this guy on. They're not able to do it, most of them. And he's not able to do it. It starts again. And I'm not. I just watch City or watch any team playing. But 9 times out of 10, when I see him, it drives me mad. Ted goes up to the fella on his right foot, jinks, comes back, passes it back, and it goes sometimes to the halfway line. Now, City don't give the ball away. You know what I mean? They're not a team that he does that and they're going to lose the ball. They keep going to go somewhere else. But he should be doing that. When you get all that good attacking, team doing attacking well, a lot of it finishes up with the winger, one-on-one and the fullback. Now, that's what he's there for, to get on with it and do it. Not come out, start again.
So of all those City players that play in and around Haaland, which one would you take if you had a choice of one of them?
In and around him?
In and around Haaland, of Foden, Grealish, De Bruyne, Bernardo Silva, Gundogan, Mahrez.
Well, you have Haaland, and you have to say, well, who's best for him? Because they don't play two strikers at the moment. But De Bruyne is playing much more forward now than he has done at any time. I never really saw Grealish, De Bruyne as an outstanding midfield player. He's an outstanding player in what he is. He's brilliant distribution, especially when he's making goals for Haaland and that. But I never saw him as a playmaker, as a midfield, in defending and being the perfect midfield player. He's very, very good at what he does. Bernardo Silva is definitely the best midfield player they have if he gets on the ball. And if you look at the match last week when they were in trouble in the Champions League, it was when he got on the ball, the first thing he does is to be good, create something. If you go back on that goal, he got the ball in the middle of the field, and unlike Gundogan and that, he passed it sideways at that. He took it on and did that and created a pass down the right side that they had the right back coming on to score.
Yeah.
The goal. That's what he does. They don't have anybody else doing that. Rodri doesn't do it. De Bruyne does it when he gets the ball. Right.
So he's in a better position now. He's in a more advanced role.
More
not
advanced
as much
position.
responsibility.
But somebody has to do it for him. You know what I mean? Like in the first half against the German team, was it
Dortmund? Yeah.
There was nobody in midfield, or whoever was in midfield wasn't doing anything. You know, Gundogan gets the ball, he gives it that, and you watch Gundogan once. He gets the ball, gives it to the fella. No, he gets it from the fella, and gives it back to him. Like it's just like an opposite in the midfield like that. With Bernardo Silva, another great midfield player, the first thing you do is turn. What can I do? What can I do to put somebody through? Like if somebody gives you the ball and you give him back the ball, and Gundogan does that a lot. So there's nobody in the middle of the field really. Like that's what City were in trouble. They had everybody got it chasing forward. I'm talking about the German team. Everybody chasing forward. And when you give it away, you're in trouble. Big trouble. Whereas if you have it balanced, like there'll be a couple of midfield players still behind the ball, which they did when Silva comes on. So you know, that's my take on it. But for Pep to say we need 16 passes to, you know, it just doesn't make sense. And I think he's trying to give Grealish confidence.
Yeah, not to be hammering them.
Not to be hammering them. And I think that's not a bad idea. As long as it works, that he's going to do and take the people on that he should be doing.
We need to take a quick break. All our football coverage is brought to you by Sky. Get all the football you love in one place across Sky Sports, BT Sports and Premier Sports. John Giles is in studio with us this evening. Back in a moment.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Sky, Chelsea take on Manchester City in the Women's Super League this Sunday, live on Sky Sports.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Sky, watch Scotland versus Ireland in the UEFA Nations League this Saturday, live on Premier Sports.
Welcome back. It's Thursday's football show. Nathan with you this evening. John Giles is in studio with us. John, if you were put up against a 15-year-old on the pitch, as Ethan Nwaneri was for Arsenal, youngest ever Premier League player at the weekend, one of the criticisms was that maybe some of the more senior players would be afraid to tackle him, that this is a kid you're going up against. No, you'd be trying to welcome him to the big time.
That doesn't happen, Nathan. No, there's one thing about football at that level, with most levels, even in the park football and that, you don't feel sorry for anybody. You know, you don't say, well, he's only a kid. If he's out there, he's out there.
Yeah.
He has to take it the same as everybody else. But remarkable. Absolutely remarkable. I mean, a 15-year-old, I've never seen a 15-year-old like that. I mean, I went to Manchester United when I was 15. And I was playing in the juniors, in the League of the Juniors, under 19. And I was 15 at the time. I mean, I've never seen anything.
Do you see any problem with it? Like, is it too young?
No. I don't think you're ever too young or too old. Well, you can be too old, but I don't think you're ever too young. And I think Arteta wouldn't be putting them on if he thought they'd be too young, or you know, he obviously knows him. He's got him. But for a 15-year-old to be as mature as he is remarkable. 15. I mean, he's the youngest player ever to play in the Premiership. And I saw a lot of young players coming on. I mean, Bobby Charlton was a wonder boy at Manchester United before the Munich air disaster, and I think he was 17, 18. Never saw a 15-year-old like that, ever.
Who knows how his career turns out? Like, there's so many things that can happen, both physically, talent-wise, and the mentality as well now. He's suddenly a superstar at 15. He's
got to have the attitude. I saw not lads quite like that. When I was at Manchester United, stars at 15, and didn't make it. First of all, they were found out a little bit, but mostly they didn't have the attitude, or they thought they were better than they were, or whatever. There's lots of different things that can create people not making it. They have the attitude, and the lads that can make it are dedicated to it. I mean, I go back to and play Norman Hunter. Norman, in my opinion, was one of the great players. But Norman's never lost his attitude. But he had a bit of a break in that. Before Don Revie took over as manager, the manager before released him when he was 17. Didn't sign him pro, sent him home. And Don Revie brought him back. So Norman was never going to lose the enthusiasm and will to do it. You know, it was a shock. He was out of the game. Once you go out of the game at 17, you're almost finished in the game. But attitude was everything. With most players who are top players, attitude has to be great. And this kid now, he's 15. We'll wait and see. He looks the part, Nathan. Is he going to continue to work at it?
Arsenal looked the part as well.
Yeah, they were good. Yeah,
they obviously took a bit of stick after the defeat to Manchester United, that there was a sense of same old Arsenal when the pressure was really on. They crumbled, which might have been a bit harsh in the context of the whole game. What is your thoughts on how far they can go and the talent in that squad?
I think they've tightened up the midfield, Nathan, a good bit. I mean, against Manchester United, going forward in the early part of the game when they went in front, they were really good. I thought they were going to win the game well. But then when it came to defending, they were awful. They really gave goals away that were very simple. And you don't win things doing that, Nathan. You have to have a balance.
Yeah.
You've got to go score. You've got to score goals. Obviously, you've got to go score. But you have to be tight. You can't. I've never seen a team win it, Nathan, that was great up front and not good at the back, or vice versa. You have to be doing both, really. And Manchester United on the night beat them well. I mean, two of the goals that were goals.
Counter-attacking goals, yeah.
You can't do that. You can't be giving goals away like that. But he's got a couple of players in midfield now that's tightened it up a bit, you know.
Yeah, Partey's in the middle of midfield.
Yeah. So he's tightened that up a lot, which he has to do, because going forward he's got some terrific players, young players as well, in the Arsenal team to do what's needed going forward. But you have to have the other bit, more than a bit, as well.
Well,
but they did it last week.
The coaching is obviously an important part of it, but it does seem as though they've also bought good players. Kieran Tierney, when he's fit, is excellent at left back. Zinchenko was injured, but looks a real quality signing. Like, they have a very different back four even to the last couple of years with Ben White there, Gabriel, William Saliba's come back, got a goal at the weekend.
Yeah, I'm not so sure about Gabriel.
No,
he's a bit iffy. I don't see him as a fella that's going to keep it tight at the back and get players in the right way. I'd have my doubts about him.
Gabriel Jesus obviously came from Manchester City, and listen, he did a brilliant job at times at Manchester City, but you never felt Pep Guardiola thought he was his real number 9. Have you seen something different from him with a bit more responsibility at Arsenal?
I think Pep made a mistake with him. I mean, if you go back to the last 12 months at least at City, he never played up front. He never played as a centre forward. He was out
on the right hand side or the left hand side,
the left hand side, nearly all the time, Nathan. And he's a centre forward, you know. And centre forwards don't play well on the left or right. If they're a centre forward, a goal scorer. And I think he made a mistake there, one of the few mistakes. And I think it's been terrific for us. I mean, the goal he scored the other day was fantastic. The header. I mean, the power he got. I mean, he scored quite a few goals for them, but he is playing up front. And he didn't get much of a chance at City to play. In fact, no chance. He hadn't played in the left or right. Different position altogether. It's like having Haaland now to say, right, you're going to play down the left side or the right side. He wouldn't be scoring 14 or 15 or whatever many goals he scored so far now.
Like for a striker as well, I suppose you need the trust of your manager. You also probably need to feel like you're the main man, which he never was. Like there was so many talented players, whether it was De Bruyne or Foden.
Yeah, well, the pressure's on him, you know. But he never played him a centre. Well, you're not saying never, but any time I remember him playing for City, he was on the left hand side or the right hand side. And it's like saying to Haaland now, you play on the left hand side, you wouldn't be scoring the goals he's doing. Centre forwards are centre forwards, Nathan. And I think Pep slipped up there a bit.
You mentioned the attacking players that he had: Saka, Martinelli. Odegaard didn't play the last day, but Odegaard was one of these. Much like the 15-year-old, I think Odegaard made his debut at 15 for his club in Norway. Ends up at Real Madrid. It doesn't quite work out, and is finally finding his feet. That three behind it sort of looks as exciting as almost any attacking three behind a striker that any of the teams have right now. Who do you like out of those players?
I like all of them. They're all good players. They can all dribble in that. You know what I mean? But in the really successful teams, you get a balance, you know. You get somebody who's not good going forward and not so good going forward. So I think they are what they are. Like when they're going forward, it's all or nothing, you know, which is okay. But you have to have the balance that when somebody goes forward, they're going to slip in there to be a defender. And that I'm not in favour of the out-and-out defenders in midfield. I don't the central defenders. You hear them talking now. He's a defensive midfield player. I don't think there should be any such thing. You know what I mean? If you're playing, you're playing, and if it's the right time to go forward, you know. And I think this, we have to put the defensive midfield players become fashionable in the game now. But I think the best way to defend is to have the ball and to use the ball and be able to use the ball.
I won't describe Declan Rice as a defensive midfield player, though I think when people talk about defensive midfield players who might go to the biggest clubs, he's always probably the first name that comes up. West Ham are really struggling this season. We had their game against Everton on the show on Sunday. Wasn't great. It was a couple of bad games last weekend, it's got to be said, between that and the Villa game on Friday night as well.
Yeah. Is that the Everton game?
The Everton-West Ham game. Like West Ham obviously done brilliantly the last couple of seasons. Went on a real run in the Europa League last year, end up in the Conference League this year, and spent, one of the problems they've had was they'd no backup for Mikel Antonio. They went and spent a lot of money during the summer. None of the players seem to have really settled in at all, and it's hard to see them getting to another level.
It can happen, Nathan, very quickly. I'm sorry, just to Villa Saints played, and it's one of the worst games I've ever seen in my life.
Oh yeah,
that was terrible. A few 3 points for.
What was so bad about it? Why was it so bad?
They were giving the ball away. It was just poor. It wasn't. They just about deserved to win it. Villa, it was badly needed. I mean, their confidence wouldn't be great. I think Saints are in trouble. But they kept giving the ball away, and it was. But anyway, they won.
Very similar on Sunday then between Everton and West Ham. There was no onus on keeping possession. You get it back two passes later. They
just about got it. Everton on it, but West Ham were. It happens, the talk afterwards. I'm talking about the captain. Sorry, Nathan.
Declan Rice.
Declan Rice. He made a comment after the match. It just tells you a little story, This is him talking now after the match. Declan Rice. post-match. I want the front players to play freely and feel like the best players in the world, right? That's manager talk. You know?
But it was Declan Rice saying that.
That's Declan Rice saying that. Now, and he apparently said that in the dressing room after the match because it didn't play well.
Is that not your captain?
Where was David Moyes?
Mm.
Do you know, of course, captain, they have to do certain things, but not that. You know, like that's the manager's job to do what. All I'm saying is that with him having license to talk like that is not showing up the manager very well, because the manager has to listen to that and obviously listen to it. Like, it was the manager was in charge. Say, hang on, and I'll look after that. I'll do it my own way, that way. So I think what's happened there, and it happens when managers there. He's been there for a few years now, and he's done really well. You know what I mean? They bought a few players in the summer, right? But it does get to the stage where the manager becomes a bit stale, if that's the right word. Players don't listen to him as much because they've had 2 great seasons.
But he's never the most positive man in the world, David Moyes.
Well, he doesn't come across that way,
no.
You know. But that's the one thing coming across, but it's what's happening in the dressing room. That's where the manager really earns his corn.
Would there not have been occasions where, Don Revie says, "I've got an unbelievably experienced dressing room. I'm just going to let them sort it out themselves." Like
Never. If we come in with there was only one voice in the dressing room. That was Don Revie. Jack used to try and say something sometimes, and it was just shut up. Jack. That's when you come in after a match, good or bad.
Yeah.
The manager's the man, right? And Declan Rice is saying that, and I read it in the paper. He's quoted as saying that. Well, they didn't play well. They were beaten, right? So where's the manager when he's saying that? You know, this is a vital thing to be saying. This is what we have to do. What he's saying, really, we want the front players to, right? That means that Rice has the power to say that, right? And no matter how good a player is for a manager, no matter how good he is, the manager is the man, right? And that looks bad to me.
Rice,
The way they've played in a way, like they've finished the last 2 seasons really well. And they're down the bottom of the table, you know. So there's something wrong somewhere. But football is like that. It's very, very fragile. It can change from one season to the next. You get a group of players in the West Ham dressing room, it's no big deal anymore. It's quite easy. We finished whatever we did 5th in the league last year, right? Without the same effort. You know, you take it for granted. That's when the manager comes into it and says, "Hey, come on here." Or if Rice wants to go and say something, hang on. I'll sort that out.
Can there be a bit as well of, I know you're saying, maybe players aren't putting in exactly the same effort that they were over the last couple of seasons.
Yeah.
But also, they've tried to make substantial changes over the course of the summer. They've spent a huge amount of money bringing in 4 or 5 expensive players that actually the players who did so well over the last couple of seasons are saying, hang on a second, we got us up to 6th, 7th in the league. Yet now you're turning around and saying we're not good enough anymore. You need to bring somebody else in. Can't be great for morale. No,
it can happen. But when it's really well run and the manager's doing it, it's players actually like new players coming in, especially the good ones, because it's going to improve them all, right? But that's up to the manager to not to allow that to happen, if you know what I mean. Like he's in charge of it, and if they're not doing their stuff and there's new players coming in, they've got to do it.
Yeah.
Right. What I sense with him talking there is that he's not doing that. The manager, he's not doing it. If Rice is talking like that, like Don Revie would never let any player, or Matt Busby, you're joking. I remember Morris Sellers playing when he was a bit mouthy and coming in. Morris, sit down. You're the first voice I hear. Just sit down and listen. They don't allow that to happen. They might say in certain meetings during the week, does anybody want to say anything? Right. Now you can get.
Right. Would you say something?
Yeah. Now and again. Yeah. But, the managers don't like you saying anything. Well, to be fair to Don, he never said to me, look, shut up or that. Like if you're making a fair statement,
point. Yeah.
It's not, well, I played well and I didn't get the ball and all that. You're making it for the sake of the team. You know, you're not having a go at any of the players, but you're making. Of course, you could say, I think we're dropping back too far. No, that's up to him to say, well, yeah, maybe we are. You know, but he wouldn't say, don't want to hear anything from you if he's invited to talk. But if you went into the dressing room and started saying, I think that, look, sit down. Right, sit down. Just sit down and shut up. I'll do the talking here.
Do you think David Moyes has the power to tell Declan Rice to sit down and shut up?
We don't know. I mean, the fact is, I read that. That was a quote from Rice actually saying that in the dressing room afterwards. I believe that was said, right? And like the way he was saying that, that's definitely there for the manager to say. Definitely. So obviously the manager has not said it and has allowed one of the players to say it. Now, if that happens, it means, in my opinion, Declan Rice has too much authority as a player rather than the manager. And then the manager then loses respect, in my opinion, of the other players around. Because they know he should be saying, hang on a minute, leave that to me. And then that's called losing the dressing room.
Yeah, we'll see how it all develops with West Ham over the next few weeks then. Great stuff as always, John. Thanks for coming to the studio.
Thanks, Nathan.
Enjoyed a couple of games over the next week. We'll have plenty to talk about next Thursday when it comes to Ireland.
What have we got next week?
We got Armenia, we got Scotland. So we were reflecting on both of them. Well, hopefully we're talking.
Fingers crossed now for the Irish lads on Saturday, isn't it?
Saturday night, and then next
Tuesday night. Great. Look forward to it.
All our football brought to you by Sky. You can get all the football you love in one place across Sky Sports, BT Sport, and Premier Sports.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Sky, Chelsea take on Manchester City in the Women's Super League this Sunday, live on Sky Sports.